Hello and welcome to Newsline. I'm Alexandra Middleton.
And I'm Aidan Dawkins. Coming up on today's show,
We look at how temporary visa holders have been forgotten during the COVID-19 pandemic, even though many of them pay taxes and contribute to the economy.
we hear from charity organisation St Mary's House of Welcome on how they have adapted to helping some of Victoria's 25,000 homeless.
And we take a look at how retail has started up again.
But first up, here are some of today's headlines. A 53-year-old man has been shot and killed by police on the Monash Freeway this morning. Police were called to the on-ramp in Dandenong North around 10 o'clock before negotiating with the man, during which he pulled out a knife and advanced on police officers. Assistant Police Commissioner Bob Hill described the event as a mental health episode and said while the man was known to police, he had no criminal record. He said police attempted to stop the man with a non-lethal beanbag round and that one police officer was injured in the incident. Police had body cameras turned on and say the homicide squad will look into an intensive investigation into the incident.
100 local and regional newspapers are set to switch to online only at the end of June, including Melbourne's local leader publications. The News Corp papers moved online during the pandemic with the loss of advertising revenue due to the cancellation of events and property auctions. CEO Michael Miller confirms the decision will lead to job losses, but is yet to confirm how many. The media union is predicting 100 positions will go and says staff found out about the changes through leaks to the media, receiving no communication from News Corp. We will have a more in-depth look at what this means later in the program.
Australian health authorities have backtracked on claims that they were not told a woman who tested positive to COVID-19 would be arriving in Adelaide on Sunday. After claiming Victorian authorities did not provide the woman's travel details, South Australia's Chief Health Officer, Nicole Spura, later admitted that the relevant flight details were in fact provided prior to the patient's arrival. The UK resident, aged in her 50s, was granted a travel exemption to visit a dying relative in Melbourne. She flew to Adelaide on Sunday, where she tested positive for coronavirus. Dr. Spura blamed the confusion on an administrative oversight. The woman is the first confirmed active case in South Australia in almost 3 weeks.
Victoria recorded 10 new coronavirus cases overnight, including a staff member at Melbourne's Ridges on Swanston Hotel. A worker from the same hotel tested positive to coronavirus yesterday. The Ridges on Swanston is currently closed to the public as it is being used as an isolation hub for returning travellers. The Ridges on Swanston is currently...
Victorian meat processing plant Cedar Meats has reopened today after closing in April. The site was home to Victoria's largest COVID-19 cluster, with 111 cases linked to the facility. General Manager Tony Kairos says around 300 staff have been cleared to return to work and thanked the Health Department and WorkSafe for helping the company move forwards. We'll have more on this later. Now to our first story. Migrants all over the world come to Australia to work, study, and boost the economy. So why are temporary visa holders excluded from federal government support during the pandemic? Abby Dibb has the story.
Brazilian national and architect Amanda Medeiros gave up everything in 2017. She travelled to Australia for better opportunities and a safer country. Then coronavirus hit.
The pandemic has changed everything in my life, especially work, because I was working in 2 different places.
She no longer has work and struggles to afford rent and groceries. Visa holders are excluded from federal coronavirus packages. Treasurer Frydenberg had this to say on ABC Insiders.
You see, at $130 billion, David, we had to draw the line somewhere.
There is vast rallying online through a petition called Extend COVID Relief Packages to Temporary Visa Holders. Danny Valent, a food writer based in Melbourne, says she begun the petition to support the most vulnerable.
For me, it's a question of basic social justice and about understanding that these people aren't just backpackers here for 3 months of beer and beach. They're an integral part to the hospitality industry.
Danny says it's a misunderstanding when people tell a visa holder to just go home.
Some of them have been here for many years. They've built lives here. They might have leases, cars. They're halfway through a course. They might have family here. A lot of them see their home here and they see their future in Australia.
It's not fair because I'm here as a resident for tax purpose. So I'm paying to be here. I'm paying taxes. I was paying everything as anyone else. So I think we need support as well.
While state governments are offering financial support to international students, the advice from federal government is clear. Stay home, especially if you can't have family support, dip into your savings or access your super. Danny says the federal government's position on visa holders can have far-reaching consequences.
When the Prime Minister is telling them to go home, that they're not part of Team Australia, that does open a door and sort of gives people permission to treat them like second-class citizens.
Abby Dibb, Newsline.
What do you do when you're told to stay home but you haven't got a home to go to? For Melbourne's homeless population, this question was one that needed answering. Life on the streets has become even harder due to the coronavirus pandemic, but some people are still lending a helping hand to those in need. Gabriella Payne reports.
For most people here in Melbourne, strict isolation laws to stop the spread of coronavirus changed the way we live our everyday lives. But when we were forced to stay inside, our homeless community were left with few places to turn. Life on the streets suddenly became even more difficult for Victoria's 25,000 homeless people.
Coronavirus has had a detrimental effect on life in Melbourne, but particularly for our homeless population. But charities such as the St Mary's House of Welcome here in Fitzroy are still finding ways to provide food and assistance to those who need it, whilst adhering to social distancing measures.
Many charities and shelters have been forced to close their doors due to the pandemic, but St Mary's have learnt to adapt, changing their sit-down lunch service to a takeaway option for those in need.
During this time, it's been really important for us to look about the evidence of how to respond to COVID in the face of homelessness, and I think our focus has been that on public health education, on social distancing and checking health and doing screening and making sure we can get our clients to services if they need them to be checked.
St Mary's has provided a safe space for Melbourne's homeless community for 60 years now. Although times have changed, the dedicated staff and volunteers believe it is important to continue their work throughout this pandemic.
At the moment, the government's response is to moving as many people into housing during this period, and so we're looking at responding still to those that are in need, making sure they know where to access services and to get them housed during this period, and also to continue to provide whatever support we can. Because we have the meals, we've just got to now work through the logistics of getting meals to people and working with our network to make sure people that are safe in accommodation can stay socially isolated during this period but have some connection and know that someone cares about them.
Gabriella Payne, Newsline.
With people all over the world stuck at home, RMIT reporters spoke to their friends, family and loved ones about their hopes and fears during the pandemic. Casper McLeod with this package.
I live in Stockholm, Sweden, and coronavirus is really affecting us. We don't have anything near a complete lockdown over here in Sweden. It's not packed in the streets, but if you go down to the water on a sunny day, there will be as much people as any other sunny day. People are sitting outside on cafes, going to bars, but there's this weird tension in the air. We've got a steady 60 to 80 deaths a day. That's how it's been for a while, and that's how they predict that it's going to be for a while with a slow decrease. I already had corona last week, and I'm 29 years old, and it struck me like a bad flu, nothing more, nothing less.
When you start to understand the disease and you start to understand how it impacts people, how it takes a life without the ability to say goodbye, or you don't know it's a possibility of anything happen. It's pretty scary because I have relatives who are pretty old. I'm scared that, one of them has a weak immune system and then one of them contracts it. It's possible that like the last time I've seen them would be like a year ago. Now there's an added uncertainty. I mean, there's always, who is going to get it next? Am I going to get it next? How is it going to affect me? How will I know? When will I know? How soon will I know? Like, because we're starting to understand this disease, but I don't think we truly understand it yet.
Nobody knows if the lockdown technique is the technique that will kill the coronavirus. It could just be that none will be immune because everyone's been on lockdown, and then the virus is still out there and you get it again. It's kind of harsh saying you like the situation, but I'm finding my way in it, and I kind of enjoy that it's different from before. I hope we start spending our time a little bit differently after all this.
White House officials have said President Donald Trump will sign an executive order on social media companies after he threatened to shut down Twitter. We have Meg de Jong with us to give us more details. So, Meg, what prompted this bizarre exchange?
So this began yesterday when President Trump posted a tweet warning his 80 million followers against using mail-in ballots to vote in the upcoming presidential election. The post claimed that voting this way is fraudulent and can actually result in ineligible voters being able to vote in the election. Twitter quickly responded to this and attached fact-checking links to a handful of President Trump's tweets that prompted users to be able to fact-check his claims.
So how has President Trump reacted to these fact-checking links being added to his tweets?
So initially, he actually threatened to shut down Twitter. He claimed that the social media platform is interfering in the 2020 presidential election. The latest response we've received from White House representatives says President Trump is planning on signing an executive order pertaining to social media. However, further details have not been given at this stage.
Meg, does President Trump have the authority to shut down Twitter or any other social media companies?
In short, no. The First Amendment of the US Constitution actually prevents any president from being able to regulate social media platforms. This would actually be something that requires action by Congress or the US Federal Communications Commission.
Has there been any response from representatives at Twitter over this?
So earlier this month, Twitter actually warned that they would be marking tweets that contained misinformation, including those regarding upcoming elections, by attaching fact-checking links. Twitter has confirmed that this is the first time they have responded to any president's tweet and has since declined to comment on President Trump's claims of signing an executive order in the future.
How could this affect Twitter users in Australia?
So public commentary around this exchange has brought into question whether social media outlets like Twitter should remain open platforms or instead be more like publishers who can face lawsuits over content. If this change happens, it could see Australian users being constricted from being able to continue to use Twitter and other social media platforms freely.
Cool, thanks so much. That was our live reporter, Meg de Jong there.
With Australia's unemployment rate reaching 6.2% in April, citizens are concerned over their ability to keep a roof over their heads. The federal government has placed a moratorium on the most rental evictions until September. However, a lack of legal frameworks has left renters scared for the future of their tenancies. Laura Green reports.
As the country strips back lockdown measures to level 2 and businesses reopen, Australians are looking like getting back to work. Renters who have been unable to pay are unionising online, connecting to lawyers and sharing tips remotely. Activist group Renters Organising Action and Resistance started up in response to the coronavirus pandemic to secure safe housing for tenants.
People putting a large proportion of their pay goes towards paying rent. So an upset like the pandemic has caused, which has thrown an incredible amount of people out of work, puts a huge risk on people's lives that they'll end up in the street.
The Reserve Bank expects unemployment to hit 10% by June. Rental households are already feeling the pinch. They want further guarantees from the government that they won't be evicted if they remain jobless by the end of the amnesty period. There are concerns from housing organisations like Haven Home Safe that evictions could spike from September, leaving Australians with nowhere to go.
The impact of the job keeper payment, which is now subsidising some 5 million working Australians, and the doubling of the job seeker payment, which is now supporting 1.7 million Australians, this will prevent an initial massive spike of homelessness.
The federal government has encouraged renters to negotiate rental reductions with their agents and landlords while they wait to return to work. However, Raw says this leaves tenants vulnerable.
Evictions can still happen. The process has changed from notice to vacate to working through VCAT, which can be an incredibly time-consuming and stressful experience for people.
The next 3 months are critical to the future of Australia's housing crisis. Laura Green for Newsline.
With restrictions having caused businesses to lose physical customers and even temporarily shut their doors, many had to put full focus online. Nick Angus reports on how this emphasis on the online space affected businesses from the early stages of isolation.
There's no doubt that online shopping has become a hot topic of discussion during this pandemic, with many taking to the screens to browse and purchase items. But just how have businesses coped with an increased online attention? Director and owner of the bedspread shop, Joe McComiskey, said the first few weeks were full on.
It was, wow, it's a lot of orders to process. Like over 100 one week. It was just like, they just kept going out and out and out.
Likewise, owner of Avenue Bookstore, Chris Redfern, said the decision to temporarily shut all their shop stores and move completely online was a significant process.
We've had this phenomenal journey of transforming completely from an open door book selling experience to an online thing. And it's been a lot of work, but it's been good.
For both these businesses, there has been consideration into how this online presence will continue shaping the workplace for the future.
We really anticipate that online will be a really key part of our business going forward, and we need to kind of nurture that.
When this all settles down, we'll probably look at then revisiting the work that's been done on the new build of the website and an upgrade.
It's clear to see how impactful the online space has been and will continue to be for these businesses. Now, the question arises about whether people will physically return to shops to the same extent as pre-pandemic.
I don't think the current pandemic is going to revolutionise online shopping. I think it's not going to hurt it, but I think people are wanting to come back out into the shops.
They really want to actually have that tangible, tactile, social experience again. And I think in my roundabout way, I'm sort of saying that I think people don't want to be just online. They want to have a real experience as well.
Currently, Joe and Chris are welcoming customers both in-store and online, and hoping that for now, it can be somewhat of business as usual. Nick Angus for Newsline.
With people all around the world stuck at home, RMIT reporters spoke to their family, friends and loved ones about their hopes and fears during the pandemic. Cara Briggs with this piece.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think that at any moment something like this can completely change your life. You start to think about your family a lot more. During this time, my brother has now had a baby, which is really lovely, but we as a family, my parents, we can't make this baby till who knows when. We can't fly anymore. So the baby's in Melbourne, we can't meet him. Your life on Earth is short. You don't know what to expect at any point or any moment.
I'm currently in Tulum, Mexico. I had planned to come to Mexico and I was going to surf. And then all the stuff ended up happening while we were here. And we were like, why would we go back to my home country of the United States where people are having trouble just to get like fresh produce at the grocery store? Like here, there's an abundance of like fresh produce, fresh fruit, fresh all of that. So there was no point in trying to think the grass is greener on the other side when we already had a really good situation going on. The whole like Mexican vibe is if we get sick and we die, you know what? It's part of life. Like they're just like, we're going on with our living. Like you guys are going to stop us from doing anything. The war in reality is no longer on a battlefield. Now people are stuck inside and a lot of people aren't okay with themselves. So it's a mental war they're fighting now. And to keep people mentally sane is the issue. Use this time. We have literally YouTubeversity. You have the endless supply of knowledge. Like take advantage of it. Do something that you always wanted to do. The things that we're being told to do, like clean hands, be healthy, exercise, that's stuff you should have been doing anyways.
My brother's been able to come and visit, and we've done some jam sessions and singing because my brother is a guitarist and I'm a singer. So we've done that, which is really nice.
It's definitely made me realise, you got to keep your loved ones as close as you can.
Welcome back. This week, students across Victoria have begun the gradual return to face-to-face learning.
Some teachers are preparing to play catch-up with students who struggled to adapt to online learning. Meg de Jong reports.
Students and teachers across Victoria are saying goodbye to online learning this week. Many teachers will be seeing some students for the first time since COVID-19 restrictions were put into place. A large population of students from non-English speaking backgrounds have been absent because they struggle to access online learning content. Jamie Circuit, a grade 4 teacher in Melton, has major concerns for students who have been missing from classes during the COVID-19 pandemic.
We will go over some of the content, but some of the kids will be ready to move on, and unfortunately it's likely that there are some things that we have covered that they will probably miss out on.
5 separate studies released by the Federal Education Department in April confirmed online education is holding back students. Vulnerable children, including those from non-English speaking backgrounds, could be facing long-term impacts to their education.
If the kids find something difficult to understand, they can't ask their parents at home to help them with that, because obviously their parents struggle to understand it as well.
Many teachers have tried their best to ease the transition for disadvantaged students to online learning by offering home visits and phone calls from interpreters. Despite this, some students have rarely, if at all, been heard from since the switch to online learning almost 2 months ago. Ms. Circuit remains optimistic about returning to face-to-face learning, but knows going forward there is work to be done in the classroom.
It's going to be really weird to see how they've changed over this time and what they come back like, but I'm sure that they'll be all pumped and ready to go.
While COVID-19 restrictions across the state begin to ease, teachers now hope that face-to-face learning is here to stay. Meg de Jong, Newsline.
To international news now, and Simone Natev joins us. Simone, what's the latest?
Thanks, Aidan. As of this morning, the US has recorded over 100,000 coronavirus deaths as states continue to relax lockdown measures. The US remains the largest outbreak for coronavirus in the world, while the total number of recorded cases globally has risen to 5.68 million. Brazil still holds its place at number 2 with the second highest amount of COVID cases, with over 400,000 infections recorded according to the Johns Hopkins University tracker. The US has postponed SpaceX NASA from launching today due to poor weather conditions. The first crewed NASA flight from US soil since 2011 was called off 16 minutes before liftoff. The next opportunity for SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launch is this Saturday. In other parts of the US, the alleged police killing of George Floyd has brought thousands of protesters to the streets of Minneapolis demanding justice after his violent arrest. Large groups of diverse protesters gathered in the city holding up signs reading "I can't breathe" and "Jail killer KK cops," whilst chanting "Prosecute the police." 4 officers were sacked following Mr. Floyd's death, and the incident is being investigated further by the FBI for possible civil rights violations. And in Brazil, police have raided the homes of some of President Bolsonaro's most avid online supporters as part of an investigation to a fake news network. Investigators reportedly suspect that the network could be linked to President Bolsonaro's own son. To the UK, 61 MPs defied Boris Johnson after his call to move on from the Dominic Cummings crisis. Cummings had travelled over 400 kilometres to his family estate in Durham during the strict lockdown period. The former Chancellor, Sajid Javid, said the journey was not necessary or justified, and over 40 MPs are calling for Cummings to resign or be sacked over the incident. The US has announced they will end special trade relations with Hong Kong as they no longer view the territory as being autonomous from China. This comes in light of the new security law China is set to impose on Hong Kong that will drastically limit civil liberties in the territory. The US decision could have a major impact on the Hong Kong economy in the long run. In Italy, an ancient Roman mosaic floor has been discovered under vines. The pristine archaeological treasure has been discovered near the northern Italian city of Verona. Experts say the mosaic floor dates back to the 3rd century AD. And sad news comes as groundbreaking American author and activist Larry Kramer dies at age 84. Kramer died Wednesday morning in Manhattan from pneumonia. He was known for his tireless activism for gay rights and efforts in tackling the HIV and AIDS crisis. That's all for international news. Back to you, Aidan.
Thanks for that, Simone. Charities and doctors around the world have been reporting an increase in the use of mental illness helplines, especially for eating disorders. Rachel New explores how coronavirus has exposed the warped views we can have around body image and exercise.
Apart from the mortal threat coronavirus poses, another problem is eating at us. Stress has us reaching out for more snacks, and with that come inevitable thoughts around body image and exercise. This can be dangerous for people suffering from disordered eating, diagnosed or otherwise.
We know that support of people with eating disorders is incredibly important from a family standpoint, from a treatment standpoint, and therefore their access to that treatment or their usual support network would be pretty disrupted, and that can have quite a severe effect on their capacity to cope.
And media's consistent emphasis on fat phobia is only making things worse.
Particularly social media, so you're seeing a lot of very high profile people, celebrities, influencers with very large followings who are sharing memes and jokes about the fear surrounding how their bodies are going to change during this period.
Since the pandemic started, awareness around exercise has heightened. In an article by USA Today, YouTube reported an increase of home workout videos by 515%. Fitness challenges have been dominating social platforms like Instagram and TikTok. However, overexposure to these videos can lead to exercise guilt.
I think if people are experiencing guilt for a change in their relationship with movement, it's indicative that they should probably explore their relationship with movement. Guilt is a very strong emotion. For instance, if we cheat on a test, we might feel guilty. So I'd really encourage people to take some time to explore that.
Old habits die hard, but this isolation period can be the first step to changing mindsets and staying healthier both physically and mentally in the long run. Rachel New, Newsline.
Seat and Meats reopened today after becoming Victoria's worst COVID cluster. The abattoir was shut down on April 29 but recommenced all operations today. Phoebe Humphrey joins us now to tell us more. Phoebe, hasn't the facility been open already over the last week?
The Brooklyn Meat Processing Plant actually opened its cold storage unit on May 18th with a limited number of staff. Now, these staff with the other 300 that will be returning to work in the next week will need to be medically cleared by the Victorian Health Department. However, today they were fully functional and operating processing livestock.
What was the final number of cases from the outbreak?
Well, as you said earlier, it was the largest Victorian COVID-19 cluster, and there were contributed 111 confirmed cases to the state's tally. Now, the first case was actually reported on April 2nd, but wasn't deemed a risk as the worker had not been on site for a matter of weeks. However, this led to 67 workers and 44 close contacts testing positive to the virus. Thankfully, there have been no new infections from this outbreak since the 22nd of May.
What has the facility done to make sure they're returning to work safely?
Well, the managers have actually downloaded the COVID Safe app to stay on top of contact tracing, and there's actually been less of a concern, and also they've been working closely with the Department of Health and Human Services and WorkSafe to ensure they are operating in the safest possible manner.
Have they seen any backlash to reopening the plant?
Well, there's actually been less concern of reopening the plant due to stringent cleaning and infection control that took place. There has, however, been backlash on the handling of the cluster as a whole. Now, Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton told 3AW authorities should have closed the entire factory down instead of just the boning room where the outbreak first started.
Do you think this will have an effect on the handling of future potential outbreaks?
Most definitely. I think we're seeing an impact on proactive shutdowns, and we're seeing this with McDonald's closing 12 of its Melbourne stores due to a cluster that started with a delivery driver. Now, these stores and health departments have been working closely together to minimise the spread of coronavirus, and we've seen this with over 90 workers being tested and others being told to self-isolate. Daniel Andrews has also said Victoria has conducted over 200,000 tests to minimise the spread of the virus, but has told people if they can continue to work at home, please do so until at least July. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Phoebe Humphrey there.
While the virus has forced us apart, it's also brought us together to reflect on how much our lives are changing. RMIT reporters spoke to their family and loved ones about their hopes and fears during the pandemic. Daniel Cook with this piece.
Well, as I'm spending a lot of time at home now, since I haven't really worked since March, I feel like my routine, I don't really have a routine, if I'm being honest with you. I just it takes me a while to get to sleep, so my sleep schedule is all over the place. I don't really have one at the moment. I feel like I struggle to get to sleep, and then I'm waking up later in the day, which kind of sets me back. As soon as I wake up, it's probably like anywhere from like 11 to like 1, if I'm being honest with you.
My body clock has lost its sense of everything recently. So yeah, I wake up anywhere between 8 and 11, and if I wake up before 9, I usually go back to sleep. But stay in bed for about an hour, just on my phone, usually on Twitter. It's the worst way to wake up, but I can't stop doing it, so it's kind of, caught in a loop there.
Waking up, I'm seeing my parents off to work as they do, and I
wake up, have some food, and then sit on the couch and watch Netflix, or I might go for a walk later in the afternoon or bake something as well. I'm baking brownies. I love brownies, and a lot of like banana cakes and vanilla cakes, and I've made a few cheesecakes, so that's been good.
Every now and again I'll do some uni work. It depends on, how motivated I am and how good my mental health is. And then just sit around all day. I don't get outside much.
I'm pretty much a housewife now during the day. I clean, I know I've got stuff to do before lunchtime. The house has to be clean. My little sister has to be up. She has to be prepped for online schooling now because everything's online. And she's only 11, so her attention span is the size of a peanut. So I'm helping her all day.
And then I'm usually in bed at about 10:30, but not asleep. I like to sit in bed and read a lot, or just sit on my phone. I've been watching a lot of chess lately. There's a lot of online chess tournaments that I've been watching. It's more riveting than you'd think, I'm telling you.
Even before this whole COVID-19, my days consisted of getting up and getting my little sister ready, but taking her to school, cleaning the house, and then picking her up from school. My life is still somewhat the same stuff, but I'm doing different things. Besides not seeing my dad, it hasn't affected me majorly, which I'm grateful.
Welcome back. Because of the coronavirus lockdown, businesses closed down and many Australians have lost their jobs overnight. Supermarket giants Coles and Woolworths have come forward to offer thousands of new positions. Is this a lifeline to the unemployed? Cherie Ratton reports.
May 2020. Australia has felt the sting of the coronavirus economic damage as businesses closed down and thousands of Australians are suddenly jobless. One industry bringing hope to job seekers in these strange times is retail trade. In a response to consumer demand and panic buying, Coles and Woolworths are offering thousands of new jobs available now and immediately putting Australians back to work. Jess Robson, a media and communications student, has seen a once-in-a-lifetime shift in Australian supermarkets that would not have been imagined only 3 months ago.
When it's really busy, they have those little, what do you call it, like those people stand in lines with the ropes, and then they have like the little walkie-talkie saying when people come in and out, they have those guards over people's faces. They have like more hand sanitizer and things like that.
So who is best suited to work at supermarkets during the pandemic? I spoke to Karen Welsh, CEO of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, to find out.
They're also tackling the issue of violence from panic buying with the consumers. So when they're choosing staff to actually work in these environments, they need to consider perhaps the staff's ability to cope with the environment that they'll be working within.
The Melbourne-based Grattan Institute research predicts 28% of Australians will be unemployed by June. However, the job offerings by Coles and Woolworths are a lifeline in these serious and unusual times and a much-needed boost to the scarred economy. Coles and Woolworths continue the physical distancing and sanitising in all stores as circumstances are not getting worse but uncovered. Cherie Radden, Newsline.
News Corp Australia has announced that it will be ending the print editions of over 100 regional and community papers, restructuring them into digital-only formats. They said that this would result in job losses. However, the exact numbers are unclear.
Reporter Kai Holroyd is here interviewing ABC journalist Isabel Rowe.
Thanks, guys, and thank you for being here, Isabel.
You're welcome.
How will this impact the Australian media landscape?
Well, it's a really sad day for regional journalism in particular because this is an area where lots of young journalists start, but also where a lot of really experienced journalists stay their entire careers and have a really important connection with their local communities. And so the loss of, I think it's 120 actual physical newspapers across regional Australia is, of course, going to be job losses, not that News Corp has said at this point how many. And it's just an extraordinary loss of accountability for local government. And it's really sad for young journalists who, you know, might not have as much of a chance as they did previously to be able to get a job in some of these areas. So it has a massive impact on, you know, democracy in this country because there's just going to be less or fewer people asking questions, and that's just always a bad thing.
Are there any sort of pros towards moving to a digital-only outlet? Or?
Well, digital-only is where people are. You know, most of us get our news online anyway. Most of us don't actually pick up a hard copy, and that is the reason why hard copies aren't doing as well. And so the pros are, of course, that you can actually find most of your audience there. Obviously, news is incredibly easy to update online, and papers have always struggled as the 24-hour news cycle has gone on. Papers have struggled to keep up because, you know, they always do need to print, I guess, what you'd call yesterday's news. But the problem with going digital only is that in a lot of these small towns, and for example, one of the Tasmanian papers that's closing down, that is an enormously the population is aged. Now, those people don't necessarily have internet connections. They're not looking for their news online. They want to pick up the actual physical hard copy, and if that's not there, they're probably not going to seek it out. They'll decide that that's that for their local news, and you know, that's just one less informed person in that town, and I think that's sad. So it's an inevitable situation. We've all seen the demise of hard copy and traditional news and a move to online. I just don't know what to do about it. No one's obviously figured out the model.
Yeah. So last week we had BuzzFeed closed down. This week we've now got News Corp. Is there a way to make sort of news viable again, or have we got to flip the script entirely?
Well, people will tell you that they're happy to pay for news that they think is good. I'm not sure that that's 100% right, but a lot of people will pay for a service they think is good. But of course, the problem is that there are things like the ABC, and then there are sort of cheaper news websites that rip off a lot of copy from traditional news media. And so while there exists free news, there will be a struggle for those who need to charge for the news to market their product, and that's just how life works. But News Corp has always been in that situation. I think there's been some talk recently about music has had this issue, and people have gone to Spotify, and for example, it's a streaming service and you can get lots of music on Spotify. If there was something like that for news, perhaps that might work, like an article by article subscription model, instead of paying a subscription to a certain company. And I think from memory that has been something that has been touted, or some websites have started trying to do something like that. But if anyone has the actual answer, they certainly haven't put it out there yet. And when they do, they'll be a millionaire, because I think everyone wants to know how to make this work and how to profit from online news, because that is where we're going. That's the future.
Yeah. Well, as a young journalist, this has been very sobering.
I'm so sorry to break the news to you.
No. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Back to you guys.
Thanks so much, Kai. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back. During the COVID-19 pandemic, everyday life has become a little extraordinary. On Tuesday, the 12th of May, RMIT journalists documented a day in the life of people across the world. Sarah Oliver has more.
From the 1st of June, Victoria will lift further restrictions, bringing the state back to phase 2. But in the early hours of Tuesday, the 12th of May, sporting venues, schools and many public places have been closed. And although the Andrews government announced the easing of some restrictions, Victorians are still feeling trapped inside their homes. Bridget Novak with the story.
Bedava yaşıyoruz. Bedava. Hava bedava, bulut bedava. Dere tepe bedava. Yağmur, çamur, bedava. Otomobillerin dışı, sinemaların kapısı, cam mekanlar bedava. Peynir, ekmek değil ama acı su bedava. Kelle fiyatına hürriyet, esirlik bedava. Bedava yaşıyoruz. bedava.
Meet Dokhan, quarantined under COVID-19.
Some of the restrictions have been eased. They didn't make a lot of changes. It's just they're allowing gatherings up to 10 people now. And you're allowed to have 5 visitors at your home. They're doing that, I guess, to be close with your family and friends, because that's what Dan Andrew believes.
Dokhan would usually spend a large portion of his day training for basketball.
But yes, this is my beautiful home. Doesn't look very homey, but...
Since the worldwide spread of the virus, many facilities have been forced to close in order to maintain public health and safety. Unfortunately, this included Dokhan's local training centre.
It's sad coming here and seeing it all closed.
On the bright side, other facilities are starting to open.
Restaurants are open, but I don't know what the rules will be. I feel like they would make restrictions on how many people they can have, I guess, dining, which would be different to usual, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Dokhan and his 12-year-old brother frequently touch base. In doing so, they communicate mostly in Turkish.
Günaydın Batıkan.
Günaydın.
Ne yapıyorsun, iyi misin?
İyiyim.
Okula mı hazırlanıyorsun? Online. İnternetten okulu mu yapacaksın?
Evet.
Tamam. Koronavirüs seni nasıl afekt ediyor Batıkan?
Koronavirüs beni nasıl afekt ediyor? İşte okula gidemiyorum, arkadaşlarımı göremiyorum. Yani çok böyle şeyler var beni geriye tutan. Çıkamıyorum dışarıya çok.
Evet. Peki bunlardan sıkıldın mı?
Evet tabii ki sıkıldım, yani normal hayatta yapan insanın şeyini yapamıyoruz.
Doğru söylüyorsun. Tamam. O zaman ben seni çok tutmayayım. Hadi git okuluna hazırlan.
Okay,
Tamam. Hadi görüşürüz.
Bye.
Okay. Bye. For free we live. For free. The air is free. The clouds are for free. Valleys and hills for free. The rain, the mud for free. The outside of cars, the doors of the cinemas, the shop windows for free. Bread and butter aren't, but stale water is for free. Freedom can cost your head, captivity is free. For free we live, for free.
Bridget Novak with that report. While Victorians are slowly returning to normal life, other nations continue to adapt to coronavirus changes. Catalina Sanchez-Barry reports on the struggles non-governmental organisations in her home country of Chile are facing in the midst of the crisis.
Tomorrow will be the day that will mark Melbourne winning the battle against COVID-19. The restrictions will start to ease gradually in the Australian estate. As an exchange student that came here to collect new experiences, this situation has changed mine and many other international students' plans. Social media usage became essential to get information and also a distraction from the current situation. Surveys have shown a 44% increase in time spent on social platforms. As a person who has worked in non-government organizations, I know that this pandemic has changed the way they function. Paulina and Gabriel are trying to keep up with their activities as volunteers in different organizations.
Moviendo es una organización social que su principal fin es velar por el derecho al ocio a través de la actividad física y la recreación.
CUBIC significa Colectivo Universitario de Vinculación y Comunicación con el Medio. Básicamente lo que hace es asesorar otras organizaciones sociales y que es hacer talleres de periodismo con estudiantes de los colegios. Las escuelas no se puede hacer nada con ellas porque no están los niños, y las otras organizaciones también como en stop, de la forma de llevar a cabo y de que Kubik sobreviva a esta pandemia mundial, digamos, es eso, tratar de buscar otras formas de replantear Kubik y de hacer lo posible desde casa.
Primero, o sea, definimos como cuál es nuestra visión como organización en tiempos de cuarentena a través de las redes sociales y este mundo tan virtual que estamos debido a la cuarentena. Como que tenemos que desarrollar herramientas que nos permitan seguir funcionando y seguir participando dentro de la sociedad.
While many countries just started to get serious with the situation, Australia's picture looks promising. At 11:59 p.m. of this Tuesday, restrictions will be lifted in Victoria. To the already 4 reasons to go out, they will allow a 5th, visiting friends and family, if you really need to. People are starting to return to their workplaces. Restaurants and cafes will allow to open the 1st of June, and the 1 million people who lost their job could gain it back soon.
I've been going for a walk this past hour. Everything has started to feel more normal. I think there are a lot of more people in the streets. And tomorrow, we're allowed to meet with 4 other people in a house or 9 other people if we're outside.
Universities and schools had to adopt an online format as soon as classes started. In third world countries, the method left a lot of students unable to connect to the online lessons. And in other parts of the world, the debate is about if people are really learning anything. The global crisis has once again reflected the inequalities of today's society. Some people fear not having money to eat, while others beg to go back to what we had.
Como que si uno se pone así como llama en la reflexión, te das cuenta de la calidad de vida que estabais teniendo antes de esta cuarentena. Y yo creo que nadie quiere volver como a tener la misma realidad.
Tomorrow will be the day that will mark.
That was Paulina Munoz speaking with reporter Catalina Sanchez-Barry. Here in Australia, our daily reported cases have been steady. This month, Victorians will be awaiting the new lifts to restrictions. A week from now, Victorians will be able to visit a cafe or a library. But almost a month and a half ago, most Melburnians were spending all of their time at home. Some taking the free time to be creative or try different skills. Reporter Riley Galloway takes us from Melbourne's northern suburbs to see how residents are curating their spaces.
My name's Riley, I'm 23 and I live in Fitzroy. I can be quite introverted, so amongst the chaos of COVID-19, spending so much time at home in my own company has really been cathartic for me. I've lived in this apartment for about a year. Interior design is a real passion of mine, so I've been collecting a lot of antiques and prints in my spare time. I sit out on the balcony a lot, and I've tried to make this space as green as possible. My favourite thing about this place would be the view and how the street changes with each season.
I'm Georgia Twisk. I live in Fitzroy North and I'm 24. So I'm studying nursing in second year because we can't go into uni at the moment. We have to do it all online, which is really difficult because it is a practical course, so it's hard to learn to take care of someone online. I work in the beauty industry, so I do eyelash extensions, and because of the restrictions, we're no longer able to work, so I don't have any income or job at the moment, so I spend a lot of time at home.
My name's Frankie, I'm 25 and I live in Carlton North, Melbourne, Australia. I'm quite a visual person and I'm really interested in history and fashion and art and subcultures. I've created a mood board on my bedroom wall to help inspire me and to remind me of things that I really enjoy and to hopefully give me direction one day in life. I live with Polina, she's one of my best friends, but unfortunately she's had to go back to Adelaide. Of course I miss her dearly, but I think it's been a great time for me to spend time with myself and focus on things that I put aside for a lot of the time. It's made me just really realize the importance of self-growth and understanding yourself. And it's also made me realize how important family is and friends. They give me so much happiness and fill my heart with joy.
That was Riley Galloway reporting from Melbourne's north. The coronavirus is seeing everyone having to adjust to a new way of living. With schools closing during the worst stages, many students are taking online classes. This is putting a major strain on kids who are unsure when they will get to see their friends again, as well as parents who are balancing working from home with kids. Lydia Manchi with this report.
Children's experience is often overlooked during tough times, but today we will learn how pandemic is seen through their eyes. Hey guys. Hi. Good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good to see you guys.
See you too.
What's one game you've been playing during self-isolation?
Playing this game and this one.
Are these your favorite?
Sometimes.
What was your first reaction when you heard about coronavirus?
A bit disappointed.
You were disappointed?
Because I couldn't go to school. But now I'm allowed to go to school. But today my neck was sore, so I didn't go to school. But then after I feel better. Here's my room. Oh, watch.
What was your first reaction when you heard about coronavirus?
To be honest, I thought it would be good because no schools, no nothing. Now I regret it.
Do you miss school?
Yeah, quite a lot. I miss all my friends at school and stuff.
Since Dan is not able to see his best friend Daniel, they catch up via video call.
Are you planning to do anything,
I am planning to go visit my friends after the lockdown's finished. I am already starting to plan some.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope I even meet you sometime soon.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
I know.
Face to face is so much different than screen.
Screen has been too much.
Managing work from home and trying to get involved with the kids for their stuff was really hard.
Although Dan and Hannah keep each other company, they miss their old pattern of life.
I am not happy. It's really annoying, it's boring to see any friends. I can't watch and play with my basketball team anymore. It's just getting too much for me, really.
I love all of my friends. Which one is Miriam, one is not, and one, what you know later, is Andrew.
And what would you like to say to them?
I miss you so much, and I wish you come back to school.
Welcome back to Newsline, and now bringing us finance news is Ned O'Brien.
Thanks, Alexandra. The ASX 200 index saw an increase today, reaching a high of 5,914 points this morning. Now, sitting at 5,882 points, it's a 1.86% increase from where it ended last night. Share prices across the board have rallied back to where they were in mid-February. The US markets continued their strong surge, with the Dow Jones closing at an increase of 553 points and a 2.2% gain. The Nasdaq index rose by 0.77%, following a similar trajectory, having had a solid 2-week period. A market surge comes as hope of reopening the economy grows within the United States and a potential coronavirus vaccine. The Tokyo Stock Exchange rose for the 5th consecutive day, sitting this afternoon at 21,852 points and a gain of 2%. The 3-month high has been fueled by a 117 trillion yen stimulus package put together by the Japanese government. To currencies, the Australian dollar has held steady across the board with no major changes. The Australian dollar is buying 66 US cents on a rise of 0.07% overnight. The New Zealand dollar has taken its annual rise to 1.21%, now buying at $1.07. In Europe, the AUD has seen a decrease, buying 60 European cents, while in the United Kingdom, an Australian dollar will buy you 54 British pence. The Japanese yen is holding strong, with the Australian dollar buying 71 yen. In commodities, gold has seen a steady decrease in the month of May, now trading at $2,603 Australian per ounce. Growing geopolitical tensions between America and China have seen oil prices continue to slide. Brent crude oil has dropped in recent days in light of comments made by US President Donald Trump. It is now trading at US $34.28 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude oil followed a similar trend, dropping after a strong 2-week period, now going for US $31.98 per barrel. That's the latest finance news for today. Alexander and Aidan, it's back to you.
Australian retailers are beginning to reopen their stores countrywide despite the pressing coronavirus pandemic. Fashion retailers were forced to rely on online sales and enticing customers through sales and positive marketing.
The fashion industry scrambled to protect revenue and staff amid tightening lockdown rules, with restrictions being lifted and a social calendar that remains blank for the foreseeable future. Caitlin Califatis takes a look at how Australians are still shopping.
A drastic drop in foot traffic, travel restrictions and store closures has meant retail companies have had to rely on online sales.
Obviously, having our shopfront closed, it's pushed everyone to shop online, which has been amazing. A lot of sales have been generated through our live chat communication, which is really strong for business.
But with almost 600,000 Australians losing their jobs and unemployment rates continuing on the rise, how are Australians still managing to be fashion focused when it comes to spending their money?
I think it's emotional shopping above anything else. I mean, when you're sitting at home or you're working from home and you're not having that personalised contact, it is nice to see a delivery man with something that is going to make your day. So I definitely think that has been a very strong thing for us.
Like many other stores across Australia, Coco & Lola, located here in Melbourne, has reopened its doors. However, it looks slightly different prior to the coronavirus, with new safety and health regulations in place.
We're constantly cleaning and upkeeping with antibacterial surface wipes and really highly touched surfaces, including racks, counters, computers, and every employee is disinfecting their hands after every point of sale, just to start fresh, and then every customer knows that we are there to support them if they feel comfortable with that as well.
These strict precautions are encouraged Victoria-wide, with many retail stores carrying out the very same procedures. So, how are customers adapting to this new COVID-conscious way of shopping?
Everyone's been really good so far, keeping their distance and respecting each other. And I just think with everyone being aware of what's going on, it's created a really nice uplifting space for a nice outlet with COVID.
With word from Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews that cafes and restaurants are opening on June 1st, perhaps it's time to make those purchases you've been putting off. Caitlin Califatis, Newsline.
To the weather now with Eliza Sears.
Melbourne was partly
cloudy today with some morning fog and light winds, 15 to 20 kilometres an hour. We got to a top of 17 at 1 p.m. and it's currently 15 degrees. Tomorrow we'll see a foggy start to the day, a chilly minimum of 6 degrees before the sun comes out, and we should hit 17 degrees by the afternoon. Around the nation, Brisbane was partly cloudy with a top of 24. Sydney was mostly sunny with a mild 22 degrees. Canberra got to 16. It was overcast in Adelaide with showers reaching a top of 17. And showers are still hanging around Perth after that front went through earlier this week, a top of 21. Darwin had a sunny 32 degrees for their Thursday. Looking to Melbourne's 7-day forecast, rain is headed our way. Saturday, a maximum of 17 degrees and a 40% chance of rain. On Sunday, a cool 15 and an expected 3 to 4 mils. By Monday, winter will well and truly have arrived. We'll see 10 to 15 mils and a top of just 13 degrees. And the rain is set to stick around for the rest of the week. Perfect weather to stay inside and watch some Netflix, guys. That's all for the weather.
Thanks for that, Eliza. I'm definitely going to catch some Netflix. That brings us to the end of our program. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Aidan Dawkins.
And I'm Alexandra Middleton. Newsline will return tomorrow afternoon, but for now, goodbye.